Right, this is me getting home at night, get my foot in, which is quite a good foothold actually. Get both my feet in. Then I sort of get my leg on here, push myself off. I know to people it's a big fat joke, but I mean it's just hoarding. You know, there's no dead bodies here or anything. Right, and then get into the living room this way. I'm just walking on top of everything. And this is where I would come to at night to sleep. Quite comfortable, really. Could be worse.
Kent, the Garden of England, with manicured lawns and ornamental lakes. But this handsome detached house, home to 64-year-old Susan, hides a dark secret.
I moved in 2002 when the boys were 22 and 16. When I walked in for the first time, it was completely bare.
But over the last 17 years, that has changed. All 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms are completely jam-packed.
I couldn't get up the stairs since about 2010. So this is my bed, just on top of all of this stuff. I'm actually sitting on the sofa, it's under there somewhere, so I'm like 4 foot in the air or something. It started with the shopping channel. I just started buying things. It gave me a buzz, gave me a release. And then it got that every day I was ordering something, every day. Things for the garden, and I don't even garden. It absolutely does not suit me to be a hoarder. It's horrible. I want to be like everybody else. I want to be able to have my grandchildren. I want to see my sons. They want to visit. I want them to visit. You know, I just want to be part of their lives, really.
The battle with hoarding can be a lifelong struggle. But today, help is on the way.
Where we're going to go now is to a lady called Susan.
Extreme Cleaners, the Declutter Divas, have been helping hoarders for 12 years.
We just go and do an assessment and see how long it would take to actually get her house back in the right direction.
And for Susan, their help is literally a matter of life or death.
I got diagnosed with cancer in April. You know, just waiting to see how that turns out. I am very tired all the time.
The clock is ticking for Susan. She needs a clean, secure place to rest after her treatment.
Finished my radiotherapy. I'm really hoping next time I see the doctor they'll say I can go on to chemotherapy. Now I haven't got my health. I need somewhere that I can be comfortable.
Okay, here we are.
See what's before us, Alice. Oh my God.
Okay.
If it's like this
Carry
now.
on.
Hello, how are you?
How high is that, Sue?
I don't know. I've got no
You're
idea.
not standing, I can see you sitting.
What room is that, Susan?
This is the kitchen.
The kitchen.
Yeah.
Do you need a
Great.
hand?
No, I can just
You're
slide.
okay.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
I can't
Thank
believe-
you.
Oh, Sue. What happened?
Well, my husband left and I just started feathering my nest and trying to make sure, because I was on my own now, that I'd always have plenty of stuff and not go short of anything. But obviously it just went a bit over the top.
Can we get in and have a look?
Yeah, of course you can.
That probably means there's some food in there as well.
Oh my God, it's so dense. Right.
Can't believe it. Look how bad it is. Oh my God. How deep is this, Alison?
You would not be able to say this was a kitchen unless you knew.
Oh my goodness.
It's a health hazard, basically.
How the hell did it get to this, and how long has she been living like this? It's astounding, isn't it? Where are we going, Alison?
I'm just going to make my way out into this hall bit. Okay.
Oh my life. Oh, Alison, look. I can tell how deep it is here, look. Dyson Hoover. Look at, we've only got the handle. That shows you the sheer volume of it. I mean, it is really extreme, isn't it?
If I want a future, it's something I've got to go through. But I won't say it's easy because it's not.
It's a desperate situation, isn't it? Oh,
There's a brand new shoe there, and the mice have actually made a little bed in there, look.
Yeah, they've nested in there and it's made that quite a little warm, cosy place, isn't it?
Everything's going to change, which it has to change, and I'm glad it's changing, but just a bit frightened of the process of it.
Oh,
that's it.
wow.
You're down, you're out. It was a bit of a mission, wasn't it?
Well, I think on a score of 1 to 10, that's got to be 10.
Yeah, it is.
It's extreme, it's dense, it's dangerous.
There's a lot of work to do. We're really up against this to get this done. Got the trouble that she's on the drugs, she's tired, she's not well, she's ill.
Yeah.
We can't afford to waste any time. She really needs our help, doesn't she?
Tomorrow, that help will be on hand when Susan's clearance begins. Susan's hoarding spiralled out of control 17 years ago. But some people have been hoarding for a lifetime.
I've been in this house since it was built, just after the end of the war.
And in that time, 88-year-old Brian has managed to fill his 3-bedroomed semi with clutter. Upstairs and downstairs. Mainly, but not exclusively, with papers and television sets.
My 2 children, they don't approve of this rubbish. Rubbish, as they call it, that I've got. I can see their angle.
Children of hoarders like Heather and Christopher often feel less valued than the stuff being hoarded.
When I was small, I thought hoarding was not normal. When I went to my friend's house, I'd go around and think, wow, you know, it's really tidy. Wow, look at this. And it wasn't until they came to my house and said, wow, do you live here? You know, like it was some sort of abandoned house. It's just embarrassing to live in a place like that. Another Hoover. He's got about 7, I think. Part of an old toilet, I know that much. My brother hates it just as much as I do. My brother lives with my dad. My brother's autistic. He's a grown adult, but he's lived there all his life in a house which you can't move in. I don't like going there. I really hate it. I've got to be fair.
Coming up, the divas discover an unwelcome visitor.
Oh, there's a rat.
I'm absolutely mortified.
Heather is treading carefully.
I am really worried that this floor is going to cave in.
And we meet a man whose hoarding cost him everything.
The first piece of paper caught fire, and then it was an inferno.
In Kent, 64-year-old Susan is fighting on 2 fronts. She has recently been diagnosed with cancer and is living a life of hoarding hell.
You can't stay in the house. I mean, why would you? What can you do? You can't do anything. So every day, as soon as I woke up, my number 1 aim would be to get out.
Her situation is so bad that she has all but made herself homeless.
Walk to the bus stop and get the bus to a supermarket. Say that closed at 6, then you can move on to the next one that doesn't close till 7. It's unbelievable, but I've actually sat till 2 in the morning. I'd rather sit there in the dark, in the cold, than go home, really. Sad, but that's the way it is.
But today is the day Susan has longed for.
It'd be nice to see it all done, but I am a bit nervous. I would really rather just go and live on an island in the Outer Hebrides or something and just let them get on with it, but I can't.
Can she put a lifetime of hoarding behind her?
All these years of hoarding, it's not going to be easy coming to an end.
Morning, Susan.
How are you today?
fine, and you?
Yeah, a bit
Nervous?
anxious, but that's to be expected, isn't it?
Apprehensive.
Yeah,
Of course.
Are you ready for this?
Well, I've got
As
to
ready
be.
as you'll be.
I haven't got any choice.
Okay. When we bring things out, we'll go through them with you, and you can decide whether you want to keep them or you don't want to keep
Yeah.
them.
Just remember the goal. The goal is to get your home back. You know what? It's
Fab.
nice to
Yes.
see you smile.
Job number 1 is to clear the garden.
Susan, what about all this?
Yeah, just chuck it. It's all fell to pieces. I mean, that thingy there. I'm not sad to see it go because it's caused nothing but trouble and anguish and separation from my family. So you know you can't really be that sad, but just such a waste of money, really. All the money I've wasted on all this.
Can that go?
It hasn't got any.
I've just had a quick look.
Just that some handbags I used to like save money for my funeral in, so there might be some handbags that do have money in them. I bought it with one leg missing. When I went for the other leg, they couldn't find it. Pauline.
Because it's not got a leg, it's got both.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I've not quite got to the cathartic bit yet, but I'm hoping that's what it's going to be eventually.
This table, I need a pair of scissors. Oh, there's a rack.
Oh my God, mummified.
Oh, sorry. It's
Well-
quite big.
There's probably going to be many, but that's our first one, isn't it?
That's not a rat, is it?
Yeah.
It isn't.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely mortified. I said there was no dead bodies. I was wrong.
Hoarding is an issue that affects everyday life and family relationships. And for the child of a hoarder, it can leave permanent scars.
My dad's hoarded ever since he was young, and he lives basically with my brother.
This is where I live, and it's very difficult at times. This is our hall. Might be a bit shocked. It's not fair really on me at all.
Daughter Heather moved out 25 years ago.
This used to be my bedroom. And see, I'm worried. I am really worried that this floor is going to cave in. I grew up here. This was my haven. This was the only tidy room in the house. You have no control as a kid. You don't. You know, it's your parents' house. You have control over your room, which is why my room was so tidy. That is a horrible feeling to lack control. My bed was here under the window. But there's no way you can put a bed in here now. I try not to go around there. It's the most uncomfortable place. You know, if you can imagine, it's claustrophobic. You can feel the dust in the house, you can smell it, and it just makes me feel very, very uncomfortable being in there. I want to be out.
But just like Heather, Brian is also the child of a hoarder.
My mother, she used to hoard newspapers. To her, newspapers were history. She couldn't throw anything away. I suppose I thought as other people think of me now. Why on earth are they keeping all these things? I can't throw anything away that could be useful, not necessarily to me, but to someone. I suppose I get that from my mother.
Heather is determined not to carry on the family tradition.
So this is my house, where I live. This is not a hoarded house. It's relatively tidy. It's got lots of space that you can move around, you can fling your arms around without worrying about knocking things off. I get a kind of buzz from going to the skip and throwing things in it. I get a buzz from cleaning. I get a buzz from emptying the hoover, which is very odd. I'm just hoping that I never, ever hoard, ever, because it's a shocking thing.
Hoarding robbed Heather of a happy childhood. But for some people, it's been a lifestyle choice. Meet Jake Mangelwurzel.
Welcome to the home of the king of the eccentrics. This is wonderful Wurzel land. Well, I do have a few friends and guests, you know, and so when they come round, I used to offer them a pot of tea and they used to look around and realise they were going to be poisoned or something, you know. So they'd always say, no, Jakey, thank you, we just had one. They always say, I've just had one.
The NHS estimates that up to 2% of the population has a hoarding disorder. For many sufferers, their possessions are almost part of them. And for 81-year-old Jake, it's become a way of life.
When I was in my teens, I used to go into dustbins and pull stuff out of dustbins. It's a compulsion, I couldn't stop doing it. So I just collect stuff all the time. And I got these out of a skip, look. I like store it and then see if I can find a use for it. Well, it's just loads and loads and loads of stuff. Some of it was useless, but a lot of it I have used. So can you see, that's the tea bag. So this is Joker Jake's tea bag and Tabent tapestry.
And his artwork doesn't end there.
I turned my house into an amazing folly. So this was my drawbridge, and it used to come up like that. Everything had to work. This was a pillory that I built. I just love building crazy things.
But his hoarding soon made him homeless.
Well, I wasn't here at the time. I was just on the other side of the motorway, relaxing, and I came back and I saw the smoke puffing from underneath the roof tiles. All the papers, it was absolutely full of papers and old clothes, piles and piles, and I was climbing over everything to get from one place to another. So once the first piece of paper caught fire, that was inevitable, and then it was an inferno. Yeah. I wished I'd been more careful because I lost a lot of treasures.
Jake could have lost so much more. Over a quarter of fire deaths are related to hoarding.
I never thought I'd get over it, but I did, and I always rebuild from a tragedy.
But just 6 years later, it happened again.
I just opened the door and I was met with an immense wall of black smoke, and I couldn't get to my sink to get any water or anything. And so I just had to do a runner, and I just got out. The smoke was already getting into my lungs. And poor little Boffin, he should have followed me out, but he didn't. He stayed behind and he perished. He perished in the smoke, and we found his body a few days later. Attempt at fate all these years, and eventually fate well fucked me, you know.
Over in Kent, Sue's garden is cleared, and it's time to brave the inside.
Can I push my button? Come in! Up you go! Right. So as you can see, I'm trying to actually get in here to get this door open, but the mice have been in here, and unfortunately they've actually made their nests in here, so a lot of the clothes that's in here is going to get ruined. Plus there's quite a lot of rotten food, which they will love.
I'm shocked, I'm tired, I don't recognise this stuff. And especially don't recognise what's up in there. I don't know where it's all come from.
8 hours later, there are definite signs that there is a kitchen.
I'm getting deeper down. I'm getting down there. I can actually see the washing machine now. I can see some cupboards with some handles, and I've got the sink showing. We've got a whole table clear now. It's been a heavy day, but we've seen the evidence, aren't we?
Once we get the kitchen in some sort of order, I think she'll feel so much better, and she'll actually see the wood for the trees.
Well, a real positive first day, wasn't it, Alison?
Oh, I do think so.
Very productive, and Susan was brilliant. Now that's it for today.
I thought there's no way they're going to fill a skip. No way. I mean, it's better, much improved, but how was all that in there? Unbelievable, scary. I didn't even remember the work surface, what colour it was. I'm quite shocked. I thought it was a different colour.
Despite losing 2 homes to fire, 81-year-old Jake just can't change his ways.
So yeah, I've always been a hoarder. I just can't alter that. I cannot be clean and tidy. People who know me well know that I'm an obsessive collector. And one of the things I do, every time I piss, and it's regular because I've got prostate trouble, and I just piss in all these drums.
Although Jake has always been a hoarder, he hasn't always been Jake. 40 years ago, he took on a new name and a new way of life.
That changed from, you know, plain John Gray to Jake Jonathan Zebedee Mangleworsley, yes. Some people have described it as a breakdown. I was having stress at work. I had my general depression, which was a state of morbidity. The marriage was buggered. Half a dozen things, all conspired, all to build up, and it was like breaking point until I invented the Wurzel. It's the Wurzel that saved my life and gave me a new life.
Coming up, Heather loses her appetite.
Would you be hungry?
Did you drink wine, Heather, do you?
Sparks fly when Jake meets a fire inspector.
Structure is quite dangerous and needs to be pulled down.
And I'm probably old enough to be his father.
And the divas are flushed with success.
There's obviously 3 or 4 mice.
In Cardiff, 88-year-old Brian has been hoarding all his life. And today, daughter Heather
Hiya!
Come and join us.
is popping round for a spot of lunch.
You want to sit there? We'll make a bit of room for you.
Oh, okay.
Just shift a few things.
Mealtimes were very cramped if you think there was a family of 4 living here.
We'll leave those there. We usually have a pile there.
Basically, the stuff gets moved around, but it stays on the table.
Well, we don't need that there.
I can't believe the palaver you have to go through to have a sandwich.
Knife this side.
You're
You want a
claustrophobic.
drop of wine?
No,
Here you are, Chris. Tin of beans.
I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry, really. I'm not hungry.
Did you drink wine, Heather?
Would you be hungry?
Did you drink wine, Heather, do you?
She doesn't normally come for meal. I don't know whether she's a bit fussy or what.
I think I've just lost my appetite. The house makes me uncomfortable. It feels like, I don't know, I guess like being in a cage. Well, I'm not eating. I'll just sit with you.
Nicky, here you are.
Nicky Verb. Don't you think it's a bit dirty to be eating in? Do you not like it? Want to clean it before you eat that?
Yeah, of course I do.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Dad, do you think hoarding is a psychological disorder?
In certain cases, I think it probably is, but not in mine.
So is it normal to have this amount of stuff in most houses?
Most houses, no.
Okay, so why do you think this one is so different?
Because it's mine.
What can I say to that? Okay.
The adult child of a hoarder often struggles to get their parent to change their ways.
And one day, it'll all be mine and Chris's.
Careful, I don't leave it to the dogs home.
Oh dear.
And as a result, relationships can get damaged.
Dysfunctional family life.
It's common for the children to take matters into their own hands.
But look, Christmas. Why did you keep the paper?
But that can do more harm than good.
Well, I can't do everything at once.
Why don't you throw out these newspapers from 2004?
I do, but I do like a quick look at them. Bullshit as usual. You might find something particularly interesting. Gordon Brown's done something or other. What's
Yeah,
he
but if
done?
he did it 15 years ago, who cares
Oh,
what
so
he's done?
what?
Corks. Why do you keep corks?
I know they've got another use. What use, I don't always know, but I know there is another use.
Here's some more biscuits. So what is this, Chris? 2015.
Yes.
So those are 4 years old. Those are not open yet.
I've had things, don't tell her, things have been 20 years old, been perfectly. Well, no, things have got sugar in and things that do keep. And no problem at all. I'm still living to tell the story.
I gotta go now anyway, Dad. I can't really handle it in here much longer. So
Right.
I'll see you later.
So I bid you adios.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Nice to see you. Bye.
I don't think that went well. I was gonna have dinner with him to have a few things to discuss, but it's difficult for us to get on because we've always fought, even since I was that big. But now I'm an adult and I try to talk to him, and his logic is probably from a different planet than mine. It's not easy. Beyond me.
Hoarding creates the perfect conditions for a house fire. And in Huddersfield, Jake has already lost 2 homes because of it.
Pot of tea, fag, paper. Peace, perfect peace.
But today, he's got a visitor to try and make sure there's no fire number 3.
How do you do, Jake?
Oh, hi. Hi.
How are you? All right.
Who are you again?
Rick Lawton.
Rick. Right, Rick, yeah.
Just pop along to have a chat about fire safety.
Oh, right.
Rick is a fire safety expert with over 20 years' experience.
They want to give me a lecture, but it'll be a waste of time because I'm not stupid. You can't tell me anything I don't already know.
The structure at the moment is quite dangerous. It's loose and needs to be pulled down.
They'll be telling me all this, Jakey, you should be doing that and you should be doing this, and I shall know all this. It'll be a waste of time.
I'm just looking for anything that's potentially combustible. Lots of wood, lots of plastic.
And I'm probably old enough to be his father.
We've got a very old, antiquated gas oven with a lot of papers, documents in very close proximity.
Everything gets stacked on top of everything else, so precious stuff at the bottom of the pile. I've forgotten where it is and what it is.
Not too sure what that is actually. It's obviously cigarette ends, but it's not on an ashtray.
So my trouble is I haven't enough room to store all my stuff.
We've got a smoke detector down the end, which is good to see, but whether it works or not and when the batteries are last changed, we don't know. So potentially we could have a fire from a natural flame, from the gas fire. We could have a fire from the electrics. We could have a fire from cooking, and probably more obvious, a fire from actually smoking. And what we have here is a lot of trip hazards. And if we were to have a fire, how is Jake going to actually get out of the facility?
He might say, oh, why don't you tidy up all your papers? Well, I can't because it's how I am. I can't live tidily, I can't be clean.
The last time they met, it ended in tears for Heather and Brian. So today, they have a rare visitor who will hopefully help heal the rift between them.
Hello, Claire. Come on in.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me over
Hiya.
today.
Claire is a psychotherapeutic counsellor with over 25 years' experience of helping families in crisis.
Well, my dad's a hoarder and I'm a bit worried about him. He doesn't see it as a problem. I do see it as a problem. So I think it's communication, really.
What would you like to get out of our conversation today, Brian?
I'd like to prove I'm not going medically round the twist. I'm quite sane. I know what I'm doing.
What are your thoughts about how it felt being the child growing up with a hoarder?
It was very uncomfortable when I was small, although I thought it was normal. I think all children who grow up in a hoard, that is normal to them. You don't want to invite friends back to your house because you're embarrassed of it. So gradually then, they stopped inviting me to their house. And then I kind of thought, oh, this isn't fair, you know, and I wanted to be in their house because I like to be in a nice, tidy environment.
There's something I hadn't realised before she said that then, yes, but I can appreciate that could have happened, yes. But if I go into my past, during the war then I was at boarding school, but I just didn't know other local people that I could go and see, so that part never arose.
The fact he didn't have friends home from school, that I hadn't considered. I'd known about, but I hadn't thought about that. But all of the family had that issue when people that they knew came round. My mum, if anyone knocked on the door, she said, "Oh, please excuse the mess, we're decorating," which was clearly not the case. When you get to be an adult and you're embarrassed to have adult friends round, people might call to pick you up, you know, you're not quite ready, just have a seat, have a coffee, I'll be ready now. That kind of thing was not normal. It's not in my house.
Brian, is it helping you understand how things are?
Well, it's certainly an eye-opener to get Heather's angle. It's a shame. I would love to have other people in. There we are.
So Heather, how about you?
I do think he needs to prioritise what's important, as in family over junk.
How does it feel hearing that from Heather, Brian?
I really would love to have the grandchildren here. I really must do something, but now, of course, they're older. They don't really want to come round and see poor old Grandad. But we don't discuss things like this, because we'd probably start fighting if we did. Or arguing anyway. But it should come into the open, yes. Well, that was a good chat we had, I think. It was worthwhile, the visit.
Yeah, I hope it will change things.
I certainly felt reassured that they would probably see things in a slightly different light now going forward.
We must have more chats
Yes, okay.
together, yes.
Yes. So hopefully we'll move forward now and try and work together to get things sorted.
Well, I honestly hope so, yes.
I was so impressed that it didn't drop into a bickering match, because I knew that there was a lot of frustration.
And we didn't have a fight, did we?
For once, no.
It's 38 degrees, the hottest day ever in Britain. And whilst Susan is at a hospital appointment, the declutter divas are still hard at it.
Kind of open the oven. Looks like a half roast dinner in there with roast potatoes and Yorkshire puddings all still in there. It's really quite dire.
Oh gosh. This is not going to be particularly nice, is it? I can already see there's obviously 3 or 4 mice, and I think they've tried to scurry through and come in and get a drink of water. It became the end.
It's the final day, and today's task is to create a usable bedroom that Susan can recuperate in after her cancer treatment.
I think we're good if we can get this door open at least a little bit, Alison, so I'll tackle the bit behind the door, yeah? We're trying to get a bed that, for once, Susan can actually sleep in, and that's the most important thing.
Well, I can't remember the last time Susan said that she slept in her bed. So then at the end of the day, she's going to have a functioning kitchen, a functioning bathroom, a downstairs toilet. She's got a hallway that she can walk through. So at least she's got a few rooms that she can actually live in, rather than spend all her time outside Tesco's.
Can't wait to see her face.
I can actually see the corner of the bed.
It's the start, Alison. Don't get too excited.
With the bedroom cleared, there's just the small matter of the fridge.
You ready? Come on. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God.
And then it hits you. Like, come on.
Ugh.
Oh, think straight. Oh, Christ. It's the strongest smell you could ever smell. And we've come across some, but it's quite revolting. Oh. Oh my God. Oh. No cornettos. One more cornetto.
I could have done with one of them today. That was bad.
Mice out of the toilets and a rat out the garden I'm quite happy with, but that the intense heat today, the smell was a bit more than my stomach could bear, but hey ho, we managed it.
Back in Huddersfield, Jake is about to find out the results of his fire inspection.
Well, it's good to meet you, Jake. I've had a little walk around your home.
I am an expert on fires myself because I've had 2 major ones, yeah. I nearly lost my life in the second fire. I only got out by the skin of my teeth. 10 seconds long. I'd have been out away and shaky, yeah.
The main concern I have is the large amount of combustible materials that you've got in there. If you could reduce all those combustible materials that we've talked about to more manageable levels, so if there was a fire, hopefully it's not going to spread, but more importantly, you have a clear route of escape to you or your pets.
There are masses and masses of newspapers on the bed where I sleep, you know, and I do smoke in bed. You know, I've given up with women and beer, but I do need me fags, you know.
The dangers from smoking in bed is very, very serious. You're going to lose your caravan if there's a fire. You're going to lose the structures on the outside of the caravan if there's a fire. So there is potential for it to affect the residences on the surrounding area as well.
You won't believe it, I nearly set fire to them trees about 3 years ago. I keep thinking that what I'm doing is safe, but it's not. And from now on, I must take more care. I've got to do, otherwise it'll be fire number 3.
Good to meet you, Jake.
Yeah, okay,
all the best.
Richard. Nice one.
And,
Nice
see you
to
again.
see you.
Cheers now.
Yes.
Jake is an interesting character, to say the least. So I think he's took on board what we've said, and hopefully going forward there'll be an improvement in how he manages fire safety within his home.
That'll do it. Fire hazard preventative. So all I've got to do now is put a load of water in it and put it inside my door in case I have a fire. Right, now, where shall I put it? It'll go there, look. Yeah, and then I'll move a few of these combustibles away from me cooker. That's plain common sense. Oh. Do you know, I'd completely forgotten about that. I'll get my pal to look at it and see if it needs recharging or something.
Coming up, Brian and Heather finally agree on something.
If you can pick some big things, I'll take them to the skip.
Good, it's got to be done.
And at last, Susan comes in through the front door.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
"17 years of hoarding and 5 days of elbow grease. And Susan is ready to see the results.
Oh my goodness, I can't remember the last time it came through my front door. Wow. Downstairs, Lou. Stairs. Wow. Oh my God. Hi.
Hello, Susan.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
How do you feel walking into your house?
Unbelievable. It's fantastic.
Shall we go and see the rest?
Yes, please.
This is the most important one.
Is this my bedding?
Yes.
Is it?
This is your bedding.
Oh my God. Wow. Ah, go to sleep.
How long ago do you think it was that you
you
actually
slept
last slept
In
on
the
your
bed. Oh, 10 years.
10
Really?
years?
10
Yes.
Oh my.
I haven't even been upstairs.
Really?
I was
Really?
frightened to come upstairs.
This is a home that can be lived in now.
Yeah, it
it
is.
couldn't be before, Susan.
No, it was a nightmare.
Do you think what we've done will make a difference to you? Do you think that you might change?
Yes.
You
Oh
do?
God, I've changed. I've changed already. There's no way I'm going back to that. Absolutely not. No way.
Susan is determined to put her hoarding behind her. But in Huddersfield, Jake is planning a future for his hoard.
I'm going to have to spend a lot of money on a solicitor, getting a covenant on my property so that I can leave it to posterity.
As a happy hoarder, Jake wants his hoard to live forever.
I've really to look to the future and make sure that everything comes to pass as I hope it will. I don't wish to be egotistical, but there's no doubt I've created legends in Huddersfield. And I'd like my legacy to be this place, Wurzelland, the home of the king of the eccentrics.
After decades of hoarding, and now aware of the impact it's had on his family, Brian is starting to change his ways.
I got to the age now at 88. I do feel, well, at least if I can get some of it down and get it more presentable, because I'd love to be able to have people in and say, well, come in for an evening. It's a hard life at times, but I would love to have it clear, I really would. That can go out. Good. Now I have the grandchildren in and that sort of thing. But, there we are.
And Heather finally has some closure.
I'm not obviously qualified to give advice for hoarders. All I've got is experience of being a child of a hoarder. I would just say all you can do is just offer support if they want it. You can't go in there and say, right, I'm bringing around a skip and we'll tidy your room, and because that will frighten them, freak them, they'll probably shout at you, you'll have a big family argument, and you'll probably end up never speaking to them again. If it's their house and they're happy with it, you know, why should you butt in? And it's difficult to know when you need to give them help or when you're just being too pushy.
Brian and Heather are finding ways to work together to make a better home for him and son Christopher.
Have you any ideas how we can move forward? Well, I certainly have to have some chats and
Okay.
discuss things.
So I suggest if you can pick some big things, like plastic TVs that have no historical interest, you get them ready, I'll come round with my car and take them to the skip.
Good.
Okay?
Excellent. It's got to be done. There's no doubt about that.
That's the first step.
That's a good start.
For 17 years, hoarding had taken over not only Susan's home, but her life.
When we first started this challenge, should I say, it was just like massive, great big dumping ground.
I was scared to come in. I didn't want to see what there was inside and how bad it was, and have to face the facts that this was my life and this was my home. But just in a few days, it's been transformed.
From a kitchen where you couldn't see the floor or work surfaces, Susan now has a room where she can cook and have family round. Her days of washing in supermarket toilets are over, with a rediscovered bathroom. And after her cancer treatment, she can rest and recuperate in her own bed for the first time in over a decade.
Now I feel like she can actually walk in and feel this is home.
It feels like home again. I want to reclaim my family. I think, you know, if they could be here now, they'd be absolutely stunned. It's just, I can't believe it.
I think there is an air of happiness in her now. I really hope so, don't you?
Yeah. Just can't believe I've got a bed. But it is my bed. Can't wait to lie down and be lovely and comfortable. I would get into it now, but it wouldn't be appropriate.
Next time.
Quickest way to get rid of cobwebs.
How tackling a hoard leads to tension and tantrums.
Well, all right, Megan.
Stop.
I'm just struggling.
When does a collection
It's like going into Narnia when you come in here.
become a hoard?
I've probably got 600 odd pairs of shoes.
And why you need to expect the unexpected.
Oh, that's not good.
Next tonight, we've a brand new festive countdown of the greatest Christmas TV moments.